Welcome to One Little Spice, the Disney food podcast that isn't afraid to send you into the taste lab.
Welcome to episode 33, the best meal we've ever had in Disney.
Ever. Yeah,
Just
it's
ever. I'm Julie.
And I'm Amy.
And this week we are finishing out our Treat Yo Self month.
Treat yourself.
Treat Yourself 2018 with our trip to Victoria and Albert's, eating at the chef's table.
And a nice elbow bedazzling. No, I'm lying. Parks and Rec
LASIK for your
reference.
nails.
Yeah, Parks and Rec reference if you don't know what
Or
we're
a Batman
talking
suit. Actually, I could really go for that.
about. Yes, I would love a Batman suit. And I don't like Batman very much.
But
I
first, it's time for Amy's Daily Dish. Amy, what's your dish? Egg.
Let's dish. Item 1. In Walt Disney World, you can now get super awesome Disney-themed manis and pedis. So manicures and pedicures, if you don't know what that means. I know, it's super exciting. At the Disney spas and salons, you can choose between 100 character designs, 132 different colors, lots of fun options. They are available at Senses, a Disney spa, which is at the Grand Floridian
I was going to ask if
Resort.
that was at the Grand Floridian, because
Yeah.
we saw the adult
Yes, the adult
bibbidi
princess,
boppity
yes.
princess things
Princess
happening while we were there.
makeovers. And also Disney's Saratoga Springs resorts, as well as the salons by the springs at Disney's Wilderness Lodge, La Vida Health Club at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort, and Ship Shape Salon and Massage and Fitness at Disney's Yacht and Beach Club Resorts. For pricing information and to book an appointment, you call up or you visit the Senses a Disney Spa page. That's what it's called. So you can further customize the experience of the mani or pedi with signature aroma blends that were designed specifically for the spas and salons in Walt Disney World. And it's just kind of a fun, thing to do. Disney nails, Disney manicures, fun stuff like that has kind of been catching on similarly to Disney bounding. And this is Disney's reflection of that, or Disney's reflection of that. They're starting to offer it on property, which is really awesome. A friend of mine went down and she wanted a fun Disney manicure and ended up going off property for it. But now, if she decides she wants one next visit, she can get it on property.
That's awesome. And I feel like Disney, we were actually having a conversation with someone while we were in line for Sandy Claus about how Disney should really capitalize on tattoos and having a tattoo parlor in Disney, because they would make a ton of money. So I feel like this is the start of capitalizing on things like that, because when Amy and I go to Disney, we try and plan for Disney nails, and they're not necessarily Disney themed, but they're definitely more extra than what we would have a lot of the time. And I feel like going down to Disney, having a spa day, getting our nails done with pretty Disney images would be a lot of fun, and I feel like a lot of people would really enjoy that.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, when they stay at a nice resort, they plan out, aside from Disney, they plan out a nice spa day, because a lot of resorts will have spa days. So this is getting, some people who might not normally do that into that, frame of mind, because it could be something you could schedule alongside your, I can't remember what they call it, but it's like the adult princess makeover. That's the adult version of, or the above 12-year-old version of Bippity Boppity Boutique. And it's just a fun thing that you can do if you so want to, if you so choose. And, it's a great time, if say you were meeting a friend down there and you guys wanted to kind of have like a getting ready day, that would be lots of fun.
Also really perfect if you're planning on a Disney wedding.
Yes, yeah, if you're planning on a Disney wedding, get your wedding nails down there. That'd be super fun. Item 2. So this is semi-Disney related, but I feel like it's kind of One Little Spice podcast related. General Mills has debuted new Cinnamon Toast Crunch churro cereal.
Oh, they're shaped like churros.
Yeah,
so basically it's Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal, but instead of squares, they're churro shaped.
Yeah, they're literally little tiny churro shaped cereal. And there is a little churro with eyes and a mouth, and he's licking himself. Like, that sounds weird, but he's like licking his lips, and it's just the cutest thing ever. And I feel like we're gonna have to find some of these and let you know how it goes, because we clearly like churros on this podcast. But yeah, so, and it's really fun. They look like little tiny churros, and I'm really excited to find these in the supermarket, which means I'm gonna have to go down the cereal aisle more now until I find them, because I usually just go down there when I want Chex to make Chex Mix. I don't eat a lot of cereal because I want Lucky Charms, and those aren't very good for me.
They have unicorn marshmallows now.
So also in this fun little article, they are introducing a colorful twist on classic Lucky Charms. They're adding a fruity version. So the new flavor is a combination of their famous marshmallows with a red fruity cereal pieces. So it's probably tastes exactly the same, but instead of tan cereal pieces, they're red cereal pieces. And they have chocolate toast crunch, but I feel like chocolate toast crunch has been around, or am I just making that up?
No, you're making that up. That's
so they have chocolate toast crunch, but this is really about the churros, because we are a talk about churros a lot podcast.
A churro-friendly podcast.
Yes, we are churro-friendly. Oh, okay. I'm just checking. So if you find Cinnamon Toast Crunch churro cereals before we do, or just in general, let us know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Do they measure up to Disney churros?
Do they?
But yeah, so that is it for, I was going to say for my news on the nines, for my daily dish.
It's not like you haven't said it before.
News on the nines.
News on the nines.
News on the nines.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail, and when it comes, I want to wail mail.
Apparently, they did have Chocolate Toast Crunch in 2016, and it was discontinued, and there was people started.
Well, yeah, 2016 is not like
recently
having chocolate cinnamon toast.
Yeah.
No, that's not like our youth.
A petition was started on change.org.
2016 is like yesterday.
Yeah, it really was.
Cool. Can we start a petition to get arugula back on the spicy chicken waffle sandwich?
We should.
All right. So once upon a time, Amy and I wanted to eat at the chef's table at Victoria and Albert's.
And we failed several times at getting reservations.
And we did our waiting 3 long years. And we finally got reservations.
And it was amazing. You should tell the story of the morning we got reservations.
So we hit our 180 days plus 10.
Mm-hmm.
And we called in. It was a Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And Victoria and Albert's has a special line that you call into.
Yes.
And it opens at 9:30. So Amy and I both decided that we were going to call in
5 minutes before to make sure no one else gotten in.
And I called in right at 9:30, and they answered the phone. And I said, "Hi, I'd like to make a reservation for Victoria and Albert Chef Table." And she's like, "Absolutely. Hold on 1 second, please." And I was like, okay. Like, there had to have been something wrong, because it was way too easy for her to just be like, "Yeah, sure, hold on. We'll totally make this reservation for you." And so she's like, "Yep, what's your reservation code? Where are you staying? How many in your party?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, I'm really getting reservations at the chef table right now?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, let me just get all the information. Do you have any dietary restrictions?" And I was like, wait, what? Wait, I'm getting reservations right now? And while this is all happening, Amy sends me a text message and is like, "So I just called, and I got a voicemail that said, we're on hold with another guest right now, and I really hope that guest is you." And I was like, "It is! It's me! We're getting chef's table reservations!" And like, it kind of all sank in at that point when Amy was like, "Well, I'm on hold now." And I was like,
It was really super, on my end, it was really super epic. Julie's like, "Yes, it's me." And I'm like, I'm like dancing on the edge of my bed.
And I couldn't dance because I was like sitting there making the reservation and talking to the person. I definitely told the person I was on hold with the story about how Amy texted me. And it was just so amazing. And we got everything all squared away. And she asked about any dietary restrictions, if there are any things we were celebrating. And I was like, "Wait, so we have reservations for the chef table?" And this was like,
got it.
And this was 3 years in the making. We had tried every trip for 3 years, and we were put on wait list after wait list after wait list, and we got reservations for the chef table. Our first time trying on this trip. And I was like, "I'm set. We're going to try every day, every day, every day." And the first day that we tried, we got the reservation.
It was amazing. I can't believe it happened. It's
just still, I can't believe.
Yeah,
I'm just
looking
still
back,
so.
It was just magical. So that is like the first piece of advice. If you want to eat at Victoria and Albert's, just keep trying.
Keep trying. You'll get it eventually.
It might take you a while, but just keep trying. It'll happen.
It was amazing.
This is going to be a long podcast.
We ate for 5 hours, so you can only imagine. Amy and I went to culinary school together.
Yes, we did.
We really love food.
Absolutely love food.
Food is a huge part of our lives, not only to satisfy our hunger, but emotionally as well.
And we're not saying we eat our feelings, which we do sometimes, but just emotionally otherwise.
Like, we just feel emotions while eating food. That is how much we enjoy food.
Yeah, like, for example, of how much we enjoy food, I did the California Grill brunch with my cousin Karen, and she said she enjoyed watching me enjoy the food more than anything else about the brunch. Like, my reactions to the food and, like, me just, like, gushing and talking about the food, and Julie would be doing exactly the same thing. So it's like, food is just a big deal to us.
Yes.
Clearly, we have a Disney food podcast.
Of course. So this was just so magical, and I pretty much told everybody up until we had this reservation, every second, every chance I had to tell people before we had this reservation that we had a reservation at the chef's table at Victoria and Albert's. And some people didn't understand it, but all the Disney fanatics and Disney foodies totally understood.
And once we got to Disney, it was kind of like, we have reservations for Victoria and Albert's chef's table. Mm-hmm.
And I still brag about how we ate at the chef's table at Victoria and Albert's.
I do too.
It was so incredible. So we read up a lot about the chef's table and prepared before we got there. We wanted to know, we kind of wanted to know what we were in for, and the people that post pictures and things like that don't really explain the whole experience. So even though we had an idea of the amazing epicness that we were in for, it did not even compare to the actual experience.
Oh, it was so amazing.
It was so phenomenal and incredible. So we got all fancy and all dolled up for this meal.
I bought a dress for it.
And we got there way early. We were way too excited.
Yeah,
we got there so early.
But it was good. It gave us a moment to sort of calm down a little.
And it's actually really cool because they let us in first before any other reservation. There were plenty of reservations waiting there as well. They got there after us, but they let the chef's table in first. So we got to walk through the entire restaurant completely empty. So when I pictured the chef's table, I pictured dining room, queen's room, chef's table, kitchen.
Yes.
We got there and we sat and we waited. And then they let us in and she walked us through the dining room, pointed out the queen's room.
It was over there.
And then we walked through the entire kitchen.
Yes.
I was crying at this point.
Oh, me too.
We walked through the entire kitchen to a table in the back of the kitchen, in a room in the back of the kitchen.
Specially designed for this purpose. Like, they could have just, like, had more kitchen, but no, they put in the chef's table.
And we got to sit at the chef's table.
One really cool thing was, and obviously Julie knew, of course, we were going to do this, because normally there's two people, you set them facing each other. We're like, no. We want a seat facing the kitchen. So if you're a small party, I highly recommend you do it so at least the people who really are into facing the kitchen and want to see what's going on are facing the kitchen.
Correct.
Because that's the whole point.
Exactly. The whole point is to interact with the chefs and see what they're doing and actually experience how this meal is made. Amy is dancing next to me because she's thinking about how amazing it was while we were there. Mm-hmm. So one of the things before this meal even started was, and this was really funny because I don't think either of us were really actually cold during the meal at all.
No.
But they say, for your convenience, if you do get chilly or chilled, sorry is what they said.
Yes.
During the meal, we have cashmere scarves. What did they call them? Cashmere shawls.
Shawls, yes.
We have cashmere shawls for you in case you get cold. And I was like, I looked at Amy and I go, I think we're pretty chilly. I think we're pretty cold right now.
Yeah.
And so
they're like really nice pashminas, basically.
Yeah. Oh, it was beautiful. And they're like cream colored. So, they were just phenomenal.
So, side note while we're talking about that, Victoria and Albert's is one of the few places on property that actually has a strict dress code. Strict. Men have to wear jackets. Doesn't have to be a tuxedo, doesn't have to be a suit. It has to be at least like a sports coat. Now, the chef's table, you do not have the men do not have to be wearing their jackets, but if they say go to the men's room or say you guys step out for a quick walk, which some people do, we clearly didn't. But you have to put the men will have to put the sports coat or
when walking
suit
through the
jacket
rest
on
of
when
the
walking through the restaurant. Yeah. So just be prepared for that.
Keep that in mind. And when you make the reservation, they tell you all of this
Yes.
stuff too. What was really nice about our reservation too is a few days before they actually followed up and gave us a call to go over any sort of dietary restrictions and went over all of that again, which was really awesome.
Which, yes, was really great.
And the chef's table sits up to 10.
Yes. They recommend no more than 8, but they can fit 10.
Yes. And it's per person, so if you get the chef's table, so Amy and I made a reservation for the chef's table. If, like, 3 months later, 4 people wanted to join us,
And
we would just add them to our chef's table, and they would
Yes.
be charged per person.
Yes.
So once you have that reservation, you can fluctuate how many people, 1 to 10.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to do the chef's table by yourself, feel free. And let us know.
Yeah, I want to know what it's like all by yourself.
Like, if you want to do it by yourself, let us know and set up a live stream so that we can watch you have the chef's table all by yourself, because that would be super cool.
We'll
And
be there with
chat
you.
We'll be there with you
Yeah.
without actually being there.
Exactly. Ugh, it was amazing. And people talk about the chef's table. And we've read a million reviews about the chef's table, and we were so excited because of all of these people's reviews. It was still nothing compared to
It really
actually
wasn't.
living it.
It was just... I've done a few chef's tables in my life. This is by far the absolute best chef's table.
I love you.
Is there any other
You're way too far away from your mic. Chef's table. Okay. So, the atmosphere. Clearly, we were extremely impressed by where the chef's table is located. The whole restaurant is absolutely beautiful, even before you go in. Okay, so Victoria and Albert's is a 5-diamond restaurant.
It is.
I believe it's the only 5-diamond restaurant in Florida.
I believe so as well.
And it is consistently number 2 on, like, TripAdvisor's top 10 restaurants ever in life.
It is consistently the number 2 rated restaurant in the United States. Very also consistently, the number 1 rated restaurant drops off the top 5, top 10, never to come back on it ever again, whereas this one is consistently number 2. I would say, as such, if it is consistently the number 2, it is the one of the best restaurants in the United States. You could easily say that.
Absolutely.
It may not be the trendiest restaurant or the most up and coming, because it's not up and coming, it's already there, but it is amazing.
So phenomenal.
Chef's table or otherwise, it is going to be a good choice, assuming you like fine dining.
So the atmosphere. The whole restaurant is like dimly lit, really fancy, really wonderful. Classic. It's just a beautiful restaurant. As you're walking through the restaurant, there is a giant chef's hat made of butter.
Yes.
And I say giant, it's probably like a life-size chef's hat, but
Maybe a little
it's,
smaller than life size,
but it's
enormous.
giant as compared to most butter sculptures.
Yes. Julie and I remember this differently. Julie remembers them, because we did ask. Julie remembers them saying they tossed the butter after every evening. I remember them saying they used the remaining butter from that evening's chef's hat to prepare things in the kitchen. We'll have to find out what that
But each night they make a new chef's hat.
Yeah, it's a brand new chef's hat. In the regular dining room, there is a harpist, so that's something to look forward to if you just do the regular dining room.
Yeah, that's everything.
I wonder if we did the dining room, if the harpist would let me go when she wasn't playing. Because I've always wanted to, like, touch a harp. I've yet to come across a time in my life when I can touch a harp.
You've never touched a harp?
Well, like a full harp, you know what I mean? Like, not like a folk harp, but like a full harp. Considering how many, like, musically related things Michael's family are into, I probably could very easily touch a harp.
And then you walk through the main dining room, and then they open a door to the kitchen.
The kitchen.
And lead you through the kitchen, where they are preparing all the food for the evening. And then you walk through all of that. And then you go sit at this magical table in this room. And, okay, so People have mentioned that it's like no longer in the kitchen and they've separated a room off for it, because I guess it used to be like actually part of the kitchen, like there
Yeah.
wasn't a separator.
This
It's
is better.
still in the kitchen, but you're in a secluded room, but it's still wide open to the kitchen. But it's just there's
a doorway on either side of the table into the kitchen that like the chefs and whatnot can go into.
and then there was like a door to like get out into the world.
Yeah, and then so the wall between you and the kitchen is really, it's like a giant picture window, like, you know, not actual window, but like cut out, and it has
A partition.
it's a partition of the appropriate height for you to lean on and gawk at the kitchen and ask questions, and we totally did that.
Exactly, but still separated enough to feel super fancy.
Yes, and the area is, there's beautiful
There were two
wooden
like
cabinets.
Cheerio cabinets on either side. There was a giant block of Himalayan salt.
Yes, it was
just absolutely beautiful.
It was absolutely
It was
beautiful.
all deep
it still
cherry,
is.
mahogany wood. Ugh, absolutely phenomenal.
The pretty wood.
And then your waiters come in, and they say, "Hey, what's up?"
Mm-hmm.
They don't really say that.
No.
But they welcome you to Victoria and Albert's, and they kind of explain the chef's table experience. We, of course, did research and knew all about it. But they still explained it to us anyway, and we, learned about it, and they said you can do a wine pairing, and we opted for one wine pairing that we were both going to share because we didn't want to be sloshed by the end of the night, because we still wanted to enjoy the food.
Now, if you want to be sloshed by the end of the night,
Go for it.
Feel free. We just did not want to chance that
We
were
wouldn't be able to
going-
experience the food or
Exactly.
forget about it.
Exactly. That was not a chance we were willing to take, but at the same time, we wanted to have the wine pairing because a wine pairing is designed to go with the food.
Exactly, and it definitely adds an extra layer of flavor that I don't think Amy and I realized was possible before the chef's table.
A little bit. So,
Like, obviously, going to culinary school, we understood that the right pairing enhanced the
Yes.
food, but we didn't really appreciate how much it actually enhanced the food until this experience.
Amy's culinary tip while eating. If you are eating anything that is foie gras based, whether it is just straight up foie gras or a terrine or whatnot, but you're eating foie gras, and it's going to be a red because that's usually what it is, whatever red wine they recommend that you get with your foie gras dish, get it, take a bite of the foie gras, don't swallow it yet, take a sip of your wine, let it melt on your mouth, in your tongue, chew it, whatever, and that's just going to be the most amazing flavor you've ever had. Now, well, not you've ever had necessarily, I don't know, depends on what you're eating, but it's going to taste a million times more amazing than just the foie gras on its own.
And I don't think we had any with our meal. But
No, there was no foie gras on this, but that's just sort of like side note culinary tip. Like, if there's ever a time that you're going to get the wine pairing, it should be with foie gras.
Yes. So our table setting, before our meal even existed, was absolutely incredible. The plates were cream with kind of this bronze, gold, mesh-looking accent to it. And then the silverware was absolutely stunning. The glasses that they served us our champagne toast in were red glass, and they were phenomenal and beautiful, and they had little accents on them, and
They
it
were
was just
etched out.
absolutely stunning. And there was a little mother of pearl spoon because our first course included caviar.
So the glasses that they had our champagne in, I can't think of the terminology, but you'll know what I'm describing. They take clear glass and they coat the outside with red glass. Now, when they do this for real, it is red glass and it's not like a weird red coating, because you can you can find these cheap and they scrape off and that's no fun. They then
Scoop.
they
sense.
then
Carve.
Yeah, carve. They like any crystal that they facet. They facet through the red glass
To get to the clear glass.
To get to the clear glass. So there's all sorts of fun things. We'll definitely try to post some photos. I have a purple decanter that's made the same way, and it's absolutely beautiful. And Julie and I agreed we have to someday track down a pair of these.
Oh my
glasses
gosh, yes,
for
because
us.
we need to have them.
They're I'm sure the ones at Victoria and Albert's are super expensive and wonderful and beautiful, and we'll totally have to find them. But if you're a flea market / estate sale / yard sale person, you can find this type of glassware if you're really, really careful. So
Very true.
do that. But like run your thumbnail over it to see if it scrapes off, because if it scrapes off, it's not real, and just put it down and run away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like go look at other things, unless that was the last thing you were looking at.
So we had a kid whose name was Matt, who was the gentleman that was cutting our lamb.
Yes, he was.
Maybe not
cutting
our lamb, but cutting lamb
A
and
lamb.
cutting delicious meats. So we made friends with him.
Yes.
We definitely took pictures of literally everything. I have a picture that we're
Everything.
looking at right now that is of our lemon and lime tray, because we got sparkling water. And there's this tray of lemons and limes, and there's a cute little
And it's-
sterling silver.
It's sugar tongs, is what
Sugar
it is.
tongs, exactly.
Technically. And the plates are kind of somewhere between Art Deco and Art Nouveau. It's just
It's like a scallopy,
Yeah.
pretty design on them.
I just want these plates forever.
And I do have a picture of the glasses full of champagne.
They don't show off the cut work as well, so I will.
Because there's champagne inside
yeah,
of
because
it.
there's champagne in it. But I will be passing by my mother's house, and that is where my purple decanter is, and I will take a photo of it, and then like take 8 more, because Julie will tell me it's not a good photo. So that
We
you
just
can
need
see
perfection for you
So
guys.
you can see the work that we were talking about.
And the champagne that they toasted with was a Henriette Rosé. It was delicious. No, our head chef's name was Matt. Was his name Steve?
I think his name was.
Sean?
Let's just call him Steve. We're
Steve
just gonna
works.
call him Steve.
Our meat guy was Steve. Our main chef man was Matt. And we have a beautiful picture. We have a beautiful picture of us toasting with our amazing champagne. Because,
I love both of
went
these
at the chef's
photos.
table. And it's literally like Deadpool, Sir Ian McKellen, and Baby Groot just staring at us. You'll understand if you know my tattoo. So the menu at Victoria and Albert Chef's Table is customized, personalized per person. So ours say Victoria and Albert Chef's Table, October 16th, 2017. If you'll remember this from 2 episodes ago, it's also the same day we did the Emirates cake decorating. But it said Amy Lefevre and Julie Murphy, happy friendiversary. Because this was the day that we were celebrating our friendiversary that year.
And they spelled my last name right, because you spelled it for
I
me.
made them spell it right. So, before our meal even came, we were able to experience some of the chef's cooking. We have some pictures of them julienning and mirepoixing some celery.
If you're into food, like this is obviously you're listening to this podcast, but if you're into food and watching people prepare food, it's just an amazing experience.
And because so in culinary school, you learn how to fancy cut and dice and
All that.
really, really prepare food to a perfection.
Yes.
And a lot of restaurants, while the food may be extremely good, unless you go to a fine dining, fancy 5-star, exactly 5 diamond, anything, restaurant, they're not going to put as much effort into it as they did with the perfection of this meal.
So one of the jokes in the culinary industry is the fancier your food, the more people who've touched it. This is that sort of situation. But don't worry, they all wash their hands a lot.
The Himalayan sea salt rock was just stunning. And that was just chilling in our kitchen. Just chilling.
Yeah, it's beautiful. There was a fancy box that says Victoria and Albert's.
I wonder what was inside.
It has beautiful.
Maybe we'll find out later.
It has beautiful inlaid veneer.
Oh, it's
We'll
phenomenal.
We'll talk about that again. That was just pretty. The fish pot.
It was copper.
I love copper.
That was magical. But yeah, so we have a lot of pictures of the decor of the table. Oh, what was also super fancy is the wait staff placed our napkins on our lap after we sat.
Yes. Now, if you're super uncomfortable with someone placing your napkin on your lap like my boyfriend would be, you can say, that's all right, thank you, I'll place it on my lap, and then they will not continue to try to place it on your lap every time you get up and sit down.
So, our appetizer?
It wasn't even our appetizer.
It was
our
the amuse-bouche.
It was the absolute perfect beginning, and I'm like kind of starting to cry thinking about it because it's amazing, and I want to eat it again.
Was just I've tried all sorts of different variations of all of these things, and it just doesn't compare. So, our amuse-bouche was a cauliflower panna cotta with imperial caviar. And I know that doesn't sound like much,
but
the way it was presented was this insanely incredible bowl with just a teeny tiny scoop out of the middle of it for the presentation. And the bowl was set with this panna cotta.
So the panna cotta was set, flatten it, as panna cotta is. With no eggs, as we talked about a few times ago.
Gelatin. And there are 3 teeny tiny, potato chips set into it, standing beautifully. And a beautiful little, what do we call the little spoon scallop?
Quenelle.
A little quenelle of caviar.
So it's a little marquise shape if you forget that time we talked about quenelles.
Exactly. And a chive.
Teeny tiny micro chive.
On top of it. The first bite of this.
It was...
I can't even describe it. It was the most amazing flavors I've ever put in my mouth. It was perfection.
My understanding is that the amuse-bouche actually varies and changes, as does the whole menu, but the amuse-bouche will change a little more frequently than the rest of the menu. I feel like they should do this every single chef's table ever, because it is just such a perfect mouthful. And it really sets you up for what's to come.
It's a clean taste. It's not too much flavor.
You get caviar, so it's like you're feeling fancy.
And the most flavor you want to taste out of this is the caviar.
Yeah.
So the potato chips and the cauliflower panna cotta don't take away from that.
Correct.
They only add to it. But I could literally take a bath in that cauliflower panna cotta. It was so amazing.
It's gelatinized, so I could not. But
well,
I know what Julie's saying.
I don't actually mean take a bath in it because I know
I had to say that.
I could dive into that and it would work, but
Julie would make it happen.
I would. I love that this picture is me with my Sally nails. And we got because, we're culinary freaks and I'm a photographer. We got a perfect shot of the perfect bite of this, which is on one of those potato chips with some of the cauliflower panna cotta, a little scoop of caviar, and a teeny tiny piece of the chive on top. And let me tell you, it was absolutely delicious. And the pairing with this was the champagne that we just spoke about, and it just brightens it up, and it's just phenomenal.
So I'm looking at my photos of them. And I just have to say, so I get to the photo of the entire dish prepared as it is served to you. And then I swipe. And then I see that perfect bite Julie was talking about on the mother of pearl spoon. And I have an emotional response. Like, looking at these photos, I legitimately have an emotional response. I can't even describe it. It's just like, it's an emotional response.
It was perfection. And this was the first course. Not even the first course. The amuse-bouche to our first course.
Every other amuse-bouche I've had since or before pales in
and
comparison.
We've had some pretty gosh darn good amuse-bouches, even in Disney.
Yeah, I've gone to, several chef's tables, different chef's tables in my life, and they're just wow. This is just wow in comparison.
And then, after that, they came out with our first serving of bread, and they come out with a quenelle of butter and a bunch of different salts and peppers. So there is sea salt, black salt, white salt, Himalayan salt, black pepper, and white pepper.
They do, when they bring out the first serving of bread, because there are several different individual servings of bread throughout the course,
Three, I believe.
Three, yeah. They do say, hey, so this isn't all the bread you're getting. You're going to be getting some more bread, but bread is filling, so we're just saying, hey, heads up. Yeah. Because there's a lot of food.
And it's not, and they give you one slice, one little roll of bread per person. Mm-hmm. And you enjoy it, or you enjoy half of it because you know there's a ton of food coming.
Yes.
And you plan accordingly.
And it's very enjoyable.
It was absolutely delicious. And the salt is unsalted.
butter is
unsalted, as proper butter is served. And then you add the addition of the salts and the peppers to enhance.
Yes. So I'm going to sort of, in a sense, back up here for a second, even though we're not really backing up. The wait staff is very attentive. And so obviously we haven't even gotten into the real courses. We're just at the amuse-bouche. And
This is really funny.
we keep noticing, at least twice we noticed the wait staff kind of like
Peeked in.
peeked in, see what's going on. And we're just like in absolute silence for the most part while we're eating.
And we
Like,
clearly haven't finished our amuse-bouche
we'll-
because
exactly.
we were savoring it and taking some time.
And it was like, so we're taking it slow, and so that's sort of when they're they will gauge the entire evening, obviously, but they realized at that point this was going to be a very long, slow dinner for us. We spoke to them, I think, halfway through, or, at the end or halfway through, whatnot, and they were talking about how some people do, like, rush through it, so they obviously, that's how fast they want to eat, that's how they go, but we clearly wanted to savor every moment and bite of this, and it was just sort of funny because their reaction was like, wow, like, you could sort of tell when they poked their head around, they were like, wow, what is going on in
And it was
there?
very nice because we were not rushed, even though they
Yes.
kept trying to check. And it was like the first two courses
They just wanted to make
that
sure
they
everything
were
was
trying
okay.
to gauge everything. And then after that, they kind of like left us alone and understood
Yeah.
that we were going to be sitting there enjoying
Yeah,
our
they
food for a
realized
while.
that nothing was wrong. We were just really into the food. So if you're definitely savor this. But if you're a faster eater, that'll be fine. If you're a slower eater, that'll be fine. Just do what comes naturally. You've got like 5.5 to 6 hours. They're not going anywhere. So take your time if that's what you want to do.
And I have a picture of me enjoying the butter with some black salt on the bread.
So tasty.
And the wine that went with our first appetizer was Tablas Creek Vineyard 2015 Cotes de Tablas Blanc, which was a white wine. So you can pay for extra caviar, or not extra caviar, but of higher quality caviar.
Which would be served in addition to the caviar that was in the amuse-bouche.
Correct. And it was $105 for half an ounce or $210 for an ounce. So you can
Yes.
imagine how high quality this caviar was. We
We-
chose to just do the caviar that came with it because we were planning on upgrading our beef to,
Which we'll get to later.
yes.
If you're super into caviar or want to super duper treat yourself, go for it. Let us know how it goes.
Yes.
Or how it is, I should say.
Please do,
It's going to go amazing.
because we love caviar. So the appetizer was seared duck breast with farro and Asian pears.
I love farro,
Farro is so
duck
delicious.
breast, and Asian pears.
I love all the things. So the farro was served in, so the way it looks kind of like a spring roll.
Like it's a little roulade almost.
Exactly, but it was, and we watched Allison prepare these as the night was ending because they prepared them the day before.
Yeah.
But she actually explained it to us as well. So it's a very thin pastry that's wrapped around a cylinder of stainless steel or something, and then they pop it in the fryer so it fries and then pops off, and they fill it with the farro salad.
It's kind of like, similar, like the cylinder is kind of like how they make cannolis, where they wrap the cannoli bit around a cylinder, fry it, pull it out. So same idea there.
But more of a phyllo dough pastry
Yes,
versus
yes.
a cannoli dough.
Yes, but I'm just the process.
Yes.
And it was amazing. And if this is what is served to you, you will love it.
And then the Asian pear was almost a coulis, but it was kind of like a jelly coulis, if that makes any sense at all. And that was done along the side of the bowl as almost a decoration. And then there was a little bit of, I want to say parsley. It was either parsley or chive puree.
It was amazing. And that reminds me, I need to order some Harry and David pears.
It was so delicious. And then, okay, so what Amy and I did is we tried some of the duck by itself, some of the duck with the sauces, the farro salad in its little container by itself, all of that together, and then all of that together with a sip of wine whilst just still chewing.
Yes.
It was insanely amazing all the ways we had it. And it's so crazy because you eat this and you can't think it can get any better.
And then you have some
and
wine
then you
with
have
it.
the wine with it, and it was just a flavor explosion in my mouth.
So, we mentioned before when I was talking about how you should eat foie gras, when you pair something with wine, you want to take a bite, put some wine in your mouth immediately, and then eat it all together.
Correct.
Which seems kind of counterintuitive, because you think about when you're eating, you'll have some food, and then you'll be like, oh, I should have some water, have whatever I'm drinking with it. Put the two together, and it's going to be magic. It's going to be magic.
Magic.
Not just Disney magic, but like real magic.
And like, I drink milk with my food and think it's magical, and it's just so much better with wine. But seriously, this plate was just so beautiful. There's an edible flower on the plate. There's a couple pieces.
It's a pansy.
There's a couple like tiny pieces of lettuce that are literally just there for decoration, but of course we ate them and they were super delicious. And it was just, look at that. It's so beautiful.
We cleaned our plate.
Yeah, we did. Oh, here he's making the stuffed lamb venison. Something sausages that were phenomenal.
We'll soon tell you because it's on the menu.
And then we, of course, took a picture of the minced garlic because who wouldn't?
It was so perfectly minced.
It was amazing. And then
you don't see that a lot. I don't even see it on my own kitchen a lot.
And after, I know, it's just kind of like either rough chop or like microplaning, or that was like perfect minced garlic. And then after those first two courses, we went to use the restroom.
It was a beautiful
More
restroom.
so because I wanted to experience walking through the kitchen while everybody was there, and
and I always
flaunting
have
about flaunting that we were at the chef's table.
Yeah.
But we got to walk by the kitchen, and they were plating our next course, and so we got a picture of that as well.
Yes. So at the chef's table, if you need to use the restroom or you need to go stretch your legs or go for a little walk because you've eaten so much food, your waitstaff will wait for your waitstaff to come by because they do need to walk you through the kitchen.
Correct. They have to escort you through for safety reasons.
It's a safety thing because you are, in fact, going through a kitchen. It's not like, oh, you're in this little tunnel next to the kitchen. No, you are going through the actual kitchen. So be respectful of that.
Correct. The next wine after our restroom visit was a dry Lucerne, which was a 2014 Riesling. And this was served with our first course, which was roasted sablefish with baby bok choy and a coconut curry broth. Ours was a black cod.
Yes.
I do remember that because black cod is amazing.
It is. So I tend to avoid Atlantic cod for sustainability reasons. It's just a thing I do. But black cod is a Pacific-based cod, and it is delicious, and caught it up.
It was so magical.
And it is actually very sustainable from what I understand.
This was probably my favorite presentation.
It was beautiful.
And we, of course, made friends with all the chefs in between each courses. So not only was this absolutely amazingly delicious and incredible, but the way it was presented was phenomenal. So it was done in this black bowl. And similar to the bowl for our first meal, it had the just small bowl in the center, and there was a large plate shape around it. And this was like brushed black, so it was a very matte finish, and then just the tiny scoop of black bowl in the middle.
And the tiny scoop in the middle was a gloss finish.
Exactly. And so this was the black cod. You could see the beautiful coconut curry broth. There was some, I believe, turnips. It was so freaking phenomenal.
Beautiful microgreens on the top. It was like a coconut curry as well. It was like a Thai coconut curry.
And then there were some vegetables that were sauteed on top of it. The bok choy was on the bottom layer, I believe. And the fish was cooked perfectly. The microgreens were just a nice little addition. And again, the broth was incredible by itself. Oh, always make sure you save some of the bread from the first course to dip into this broth.
Yes.
Because it's absolutely amazing and perfect and incredible and wonderful and phenomenal.
You want every little bit of this broth that you can get, and when your spoon can't get it, that's when you bring the bread in.
And I think I licked my bowl. I'm just kidding. I didn't do that, but I wish I could have.
I remember you talking about how you wanted to lick your bowl.
Oh, it was so delicious. And just everything on each of these courses was so delicious separately, but 1,000 times more amazing when it was all paired together. And it was just such a small serving, but with the amount of flavor that was in it, you don't even think it's a small serving because you're just getting such a flavor explosion in your mouth that it just feels like you've had an entire meal each course and you don't get full. Oh, so delicious.
So amazing.
So our next wine was a Maison Vincent Girardin Pouligny Montchaquet Vignes Bourgogne. Pretty sure it was a white wine because it was with fish. So this course was one of the courses that Amy
The only one.
didn't have like a complaint about, but she's not, as you've heard before in our podcast, a big fan of warm shrimp.
And if I'm going to Victoria and Albert's and having an amazing chef's table experience where I can request that I don't eat something,
Correct.
I'm going to request not to eat warm shrimp. I'm sure it's going to be the best warm shrimp ever. But
It was amazing.
It was. Julie gave me a little piece of her langoustine.
And she gave me some of hers as well.
Yes. And so
So it was really cool because we got to try both of the options for this course.
Yes. So go. You start and I'll talk about mine.
Correct. So the course that I got was New England. Yeah, right. New Zealand langoustine with nage crema,
Which are referred to as tiny lobsters, but they're more shrimpy than lobsters.
basically. And first off, it was so delicious. And they serve it really cool. So they take one of them and they pour the sauce that they have onto one of them and leave the other one plain. But basically, this is boiled in this insane butter sauce. So they are the richest, most delicious langoustine you will ever have in your entire life. And it's served with a teeny tiny little claw on top, more for presentation than anything. But there was two beautiful lines of this incredible sauce that came along with it. There were teeny tiny, and so what they did with it was key limes, but instead of like key lime juice, they took little key lime pearls, which is, if you ever cut open a lemon, you see that you can eat it all as one, or an orange, but you also see that each individual pearl can be separated, and that's literally what they did. They separated each individual pearl of these key limes. When you see the picture, you'll understand, but it was just phenomenal. And so they let me take a picture of it just by itself, and then they poured the sauce onto one of them, and eating these was just heaven. And again, it was one of those things where I was like, really, I'm paying this much money for shrimp? But they were the best shrimp/lobster I've ever had in my entire life. And that sauce, I literally basically drank it off my plate. I saved some butter for this sauce too.
Yeah,
I mean, some bread for this sauce too.
Now, I had a quail dish.
Oh, so phenomenal.
It was a roulade of quail. It was a little round of quail, basically. So they boned it and got all the meat and wrapped it around with a phyllo dough. Or this was before we decided to do a podcast, so I'm not remembering exactly 100% what each individual element was because it wasn't on my menu. They offered it to me as an alternative, and I was like, yes, absolutely, please. But I pretty much got it. The quail was on top of a delightful savory sauce, which, because these things were stacked, on top of what
Almost
was...
like a cracker.
I was going to say what was not, but what looked like a Ritz cracker. That was then on top of something that I remember them describing it as like a kraut, but it was not sauerkraut. But it was amazing, and everything went with it. It had a side of a beautiful sauce with some chives and some root vegetables and 3 little apple-based jelly type sauce droplets, and they were amazing, and I rationed them out to make sure that I had, the
And
sauce
while
throughout the
I
whole-
insanely loved my langoustine, I'm also insanely glad that Amy got this because being able to try some of this was also insanely phenomenal.
Yes, I remember you saying at the time that you're like, oh my gosh, that quail, it is amazing.
Yes. I still remember that quilt being amazing. I do appreciate that we got to try both of them, but yeah, that
Yes.
quilt was amazing.
Yes. And the langoustine, again, Julie gave me some. It was delicious, but I'm really happy that they had the quail for me because I don't like warm shrimp too much. So while my experience would not have been destroyed by langoustine lobster, langoustine shrimp, it's definitely was way better because I had my quail.
Yes, and the nice thing about them is they're very accommodating if you have any allergies or food concerns or sensitivities or anything like that, which is awesome. The next course started off with a bread. It came with a black truffle butter. I'm going to say this one more time. Black truffle butter. Yeah, it was amazing.
Some of the best butter I've had in my life.
Yep. With a focaccia of sorts. It was like I believe it was also a black truffle focaccia.
There was a lot of truffle going on, but in like a good way. So when fine dining does truffles, black truffles, white truffles, whatever, they're amazing. Don't worry about it. Sometimes someone will be like, black truffle something, and they heavily apply like a truffle oil, and it is just not a fun time. This is not the case. This is just the most amazing essence of truffle you'll ever have.
The wine that this one was paired with was a Bruno Giacosa Nebbiolo d'Alba Valmaggiore. Piedmont, 2014. Yeah. This was a red. So the meal was the Marcho Farms veal with black truffles. Now this was veal served 3 ways. 3. Count them 3.
1, 2, 3.
So there was sweetbreads.
Sweetbreads are the thalamus gland of
Whatever animal it is that you are enjoying.
Yes, and it's generally going to be beef.
Yes. So baby beef, thalamus gland. Then there was a veal sausage. And then a beautiful piece of braised veal. The veal sausage had a beautiful little, if you've ever had a parm crisp, similar to that, but made of black truffle. Phenomenal.
Yes.
And then there was a beautiful cream sauce on top of the braised veal. And the sweetbreads were in and of themselves amazing. And then our chef came over. Our chef, not the waiters. And added some additions of fresh black truffle.
Shavings.
Shaven freshly onto our meal.
So much truffle.
And now this is not something that they normally do. They do not normally give anybody this much truffle. Now let's talk about fall and winter truffles. This truffle right here that we're eating is $900 a pound. So we probably have like a good $30 to $70 worth of truffle on our plate now. And our chef literally only gave us this much because he understood how much we would appreciate it. Because, seriously, everybody in this kitchen was in love with us. Because in between each course, we would get up, we would talk to them, we would ask questions, we made friends with them. There was this one girl, Allison, who I was especially fond of. And
she was so nice.
In the middle of each course, I would just kind of blurt out, Allison, I know this world is killing you. And so, we clearly bonded over that.
At this point, the chef and the entire kitchen understood who we are, what we were about, how much we were enjoying ourselves, how much more we would enjoy ourselves, for the rest of the evening. They knew that we would very much appreciate this.
And they I remember at the end of the night, our waiters saying how much our chefs enjoyed us being there. So it was really cool that we were insanely in awe by everything, but that they also appreciated our presence there.
Yes.
That was just so cool.
As with anything that is exclusive and hard to get reservations for, you will get people who do it exclusively for the purpose of, because it is difficult to get a hold of, it is exclusive. And that's fine if that's what, if that's what it is, but they really appreciated that not only were we there because it was because it was so well known, because that's how we heard about it, but because we just wanted every little drop of experience that we could get from them.
Exactly. I do also have a picture of me in my cashmere shawl. We may have enjoyed a fancy dinner, but clearly I cannot speak fancily.
Yes. I also have a picture of myself in the cashmere shawl.
But seriously, this meal was amazing. The sweetbreads were absolutely my favorite part. I don't know about you and me, but I absolutely loved the sweetbreads. But like veal 3 ways. Every single bit of this was insanely phenomenal. But of the trio, the sweetbreads were my favorite part. Also, amidst the pictures of Victoria and Albert's, I was also planning my sister's baby shower. So there's a baby word scramble hanging out in here where I was like, this is how I want to do our word scramble. Look, it's perfect.
That's my favorite picture of you. There's a picture of Julia in her shawl that she clearly didn't mean to take, and she's like sticking her tongue out.
I'm like licking my lips. And the next one, I have my eyes closed. And then the third one, I'm like insanely excited.
Because we were insanely excited. You should be too.
Oh, it was so phenomenal. Now, our next one, it looks like it says Crayola, but it doesn't.
Looks like it says gondolas to me.
You say gondolas. So the next one was the Domaine de Crayon Gigondas. There you go. 2014, which was another red because we were eating another meat. And the meal that we had was lamb loin with barley porridge and compressed plums.
Yeah.
The wine was scrumptious. So this was insanely amazing. So there were plums and they were soaked in a delicious juice. It was lamb 2 ways. So this was actually really cool because we asked for something separate from this just to try it individually, and the chef was more than happy to oblige. So one of these pieces, which we had a picture, which we kind of talked about earlier in the podcast, was this lamb loin that was wrapped in, wait for it, lamb bacon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be as confused as you are because it's
kind of like mutton, but insane. So bacon made of lamb.
Yes.
Lamb. And
Wow.
so look at that. It was beautiful. There were 2 slices of this. So it was basically cooked in almost like a sausage form. It wasn't, but it was sliced and served. And then there was...
It was wrapped in the lamb bacon.
Exactly, yeah. So the lamb bacon was like the casing, if you will, of this
So they
sausage.
took the piece of lamb and they had put lamb bacon down and wrapped it in it and then cooked it that way.
Yes, and I believe they set it for 24 hours, they said, before they actually cook it, so it absorbed all the flavors of the lamb bacon, which was phenomenal. And then there was an additional piece of lamb in the back that was also amazing, and there was, I don't remember all of the components of this.
The best Brussels sprout I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh, it was so delicious. And then I can't remember what this
was,
but it was, I want to say a farro, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I want to say farro too, so we're going to say it's a grain.
It was definitely a grain of some sort, and it was like this grain salad, and then there was this plum jelly.
Oh, the plum jelly.
It was just absolutely phenomenal. All the flavors together were incredible. So, Amy and I, being astute culinary students, I'm just kidding, I mean, we are, but
yes.
We asked to taste the lamb bacon by itself.
If that was possible, and they're like, absolutely.
And so we have a picture of Matt, our chef, holding up this lamb bacon, and it's so thin. So the way they make it is they actually layer it because this part of the lamb is so thin.
And so small.
And so, exactly, and so small that...
Think about a pig, and think about how large an adult pig is. And then think about the size of a lamb.
A lamb, which is
that
baby sheep.
That kind of like...
Just saying it.
That kind of gives you an idea of, like, size.
So the specific part of the lamb that they use to make the bacon is so small that they actually layer it, and then they slice the layers into bacon slices. So they have it preserved between two pieces of parchment.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so phenomenal. And so he came over and he showed us this and he explained it. And he mentioned that the flavor was certainly more extreme and peppery than normal bacon, because bacon's really salty anyway. Yeah. And it was actually really cool. So we, asked to try it. And then I have a picture of him actually on the grill setting this down. And he takes one side of it and lays it down and then peels the back parchment off of it onto the grill because it's so fragile. And it was just so incredible to watch him do this, and with the care and love that it took to cook this bacon. It was just absolutely phenomenal. Oh, look, there's me in my shell again.
So from start to finish,
Amy, I also have a picture of Amy dreaming about this lamb bacon.
Yes. From start to finish, the whole process of him telling us about the lamb, stopping whatever he was doing, coming over, telling us about the lamb bacon, showing us the lamb bacon, explaining how it worked, cooking it for us and telling us about it as he's cooking it, and then bringing it over was probably a good 10 minutes. So for 10 minutes out of the entire...
This is a good 20 minutes.
Well, I'm just, 10 to 20 minutes, a good chunk of time where he could be doing other things. He stopped whatever he was doing and came over to us and did this for us.
I'm so excited to talk about the micro veggie story.
Oh my gosh.
So he comes over and he serves it to us, and he's like, so I brought over some of the plum jam to go with it because it's a very intense flavor and we want the plum jam to be able to cut the flavor so it's not too much. And one bite of this lamb bacon and I was hooked.
We're all hooked.
The plum jam was...
You don't know it yet, but you're hooked.
The plum jam was a nice addition, but totally unnecessary. This bacon, it definitely was insanely peppery, but it was so delicious. Oh my gosh, I could eat an entire pound of this. It was so amazing. And it was so delicate, so it was still very elegant and regal. Ugh. It was probably the best bacon I've ever had in my entire life, and I will never have bacon this good, except for the candied bacon in Magic Kingdom. But even then.
No, yeah, this beats all
it's
bacon.
It's next
forever.
level bacon.
Now, I love a thick bacon, and clearly this was a thin bacon. This wins.
Oh, so phenomenal. And it was crispy, and I'm a fan of more chewy bacon, and it was crispy and magical and amazing, and
it could not be better.
So delicious. And this wasn't even a course of the meal. And it was probably one of my favorite
starts. A whole
starts.
bunch of bacon. And it wasn't just one piece for each of us. It was a whole bunch of bacon.
Oh, it was it was just so phenomenal.
If you do the chef's table, just be into food. It'll help.
Yeah. Seriously.
I sounded so angry when I said that. I'm sorry.
Be into food. So the next course came with bread beforehand. And it was a sphere of butter with sea salt on top of it and a multigrain bread.
So the sphere of butter is located on top of what I like to call a little volcano mountain.
Basically.
That matched the plates from our first and
our amuse-bouche.
Our amuse-bouche and our first appetizer course. And I love it, and it's beautiful.
So the wine that paired with our next course was the Cabernet Sauvignon.
I'm just going to let you word around that for a little bit. Cabernet Sauvignon.
Which was a 2012 Napa Valley Heights wine cellar wine. Now, this course, I'm gonna read to you the original course. So this was the Australian Kobe style beef with roasted garlic potatoes. All of this was delicious. You can also add the Miyazaki Japanese beef, which is actual, authentic Japanese Wagyu beef.
Yes. 99.999% of Wagyu beef that you get in the United States
is from Australia.
Is a lie.
It's true. Because actual Wagyu beef is way more expensive than they charge you for any of the Wagyu beef that they claim is Wagyu beef in the United States.
So my understanding, if I'm remembering correct, because I know they mentioned it, the Wagyu at Morimoto's in Disney Spring is Wagyu beef, but it is not this grade. It is
yes.
it is a low. Not to say it's bad, it's still amazing, I'm sure, but it is not this grade of Wagyu beef, so heads up.
Correct. And Matt, our wonderful, amazing chef, brought over this Wagyu beef to show us the marbleization and the incredibleness that was this cut of meat, because he knew we would appreciate it before he cooked it for us. And
oh my god.
It's the most beautiful, amazing, marbleized piece of meat that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, I have never seen a piece of beef so beautifully marbleized in my life, and have not since.
And now this is the cut of meat that you don't want medium rare or
Correct.
rare.
So
Because they need to cook longer,
Yes.
because the fats render and
Yes.
just become so magical
I know-
as it cooks longer.
I know we've said before that we prefer our beef rare, and obviously we said that to him. It was like, we usually prefer it rare. However, we want you, and this was not even just for this, but for both of the pieces of meat, we want you to cook this piece of meat for us the way you feel this piece of meat should be cooked.
Correct.
If you're going to a 5-star restaurant, tell them that, and you will get the most tasty, beautiful, wonderful piece of meat you have ever had in your life.
And so we had the Australian beef. That was absolutely phenomenal. So the way this was plated, it was a plate with 4 quadrants. So it was a square plate with 4 little squares in it. And there was the Australian Kobe beef, the magical Japanese Wagyu, a beautiful garlic potato magicalness. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the au jus that we only put on the Australian Kobe.
Yes,
because
we did not adulterate the Japanese beef.
We did not. We left that the way it was,
Yes.
and we will talk about that in a second.
Oh,
So-
the ribbons of potatoes.
The potato ribbons were this garlic potato magicalness, and it was micro vegetables
It was topped with micro vegetables.
that were on it. So there was a micro carrot. I believe this one was, what was this? A micro...
That was a micro summer squash, because
Summer
I was
squash,
like
yes.
super excited about that one.
And there were micro turnips and...
A micro beet,
a micro onion, a micro beet. Okay, so...
micro
ve-
everything.
Micro vegetables. They're amazing.
There was
so-
a micro green bean on mine.
Mine too.
Yes.
So... Oh, I see it right there. So
Mm-hmm.
cute. So our chef came out and told us a story about these micro vegetables. So there's a farm, and I want to say it's in Ohio,
I want to say it's in Ohio too.
but it might be in Montana. I'm not really sure where this farm is, but it is a farm that specializes in these micro vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really funny. He tells us this story about the farmer who comes into Victoria and Albert's, and there is a specific dress code
Yep.
for anybody who enters Victoria and Albert's
During dinner service.
during dinner service, except for this gentleman who is allowed to wear his plaid shirts
And overalls.
jean overalls, because he is the farmer that supplies their micro vegetables.
And I took one bite of those micro vegetables, and I'm like, yes, he can wear whatever he wants. He can come in naked if he feels like it.
And it's
I don't
one
wanna
of
see it,
those
but he can
things, and it's one of those things where you think micro vegetable, you think underdeveloped vegetable.
No.
These were fully developed vegetables, just tiny.
These summer
The
squash.
oh my god, the flavor was an explosion in this. It was almost like compressed flavor.
Yes. So as I keep saying summer squash, it occurs to me that summer squash is not the term that everyone uses. Because summer squash just literally squashes in the summer.
Yellow
It is
squash.
the yellow squash, yes. So I cut open the yellow squash very carefully with my knife, because I'm like, I want to see what the inside of it was. And all the little seeds and whatnot and everything was perfectly formed exactly how it should be.
For a tiny.
For a tiny vegetable, it wasn't underformed. They were all there. They
And it
were
wasn't just like a
amazing
giant
and
seed
tiny.
in the middle of it. It phenomenal.
Yes.
So
Something
he also
beeping.
explained to us, okay, so this is really cool. So he is the person who requests these vegetables. We were interested about these teeny tiny little vegetables,
Because we love food and growing things. Both of us.
and they're incredible. And he stopped by after we had tried them, and we were like, OMG, these are absolutely incredible, and they are phenomenal, and they taste just like real vegetables, but they're itty bitty.
Yes.
Like, they're not like underdeveloped tiny vegetables. They're like They're amazing.
Yeah, it's not like when you grow carrots and you're like, oh, the tops are big, and you pull up the carrot and it's smaller than your pinky.
And you try it and you're like, nah.
Yeah, no, these were just like amazing.
Phenomenal. So he tells us a story, and he calls up this farmer and is like, hey, I need this teeny tiny vegetable, or hey, I need this teeny tiny vegetable, and I need them to be 1/4 of an inch, or I need them to be 1/2 inch long, or this is the specific size I need. And they literally hover over these vegetables in like a suspension crane of this probably, let's just call it like a 12 by 12 garden of just specific carrots. They know exactly where the 1/4 inch carrots are, and they hover over it in this suspension harness and get lowered down and pick the specific vegetables to the specific standard that they're asking for at Victoria and Albert's, and then ship them to the restaurant.
It's amazing.
So cool. So freaking cool. So these vegetables were amazing. These ribboned potatoes were amazing. Yeah, but the story behind it just made it next level phenomenal.
Yeah. And I have to say, as we've been gushing about the tiny micro vegetables, the potatoes were probably, I keep saying probably, they were the best mashed potatoes I have ever had in my entire life. They were amazing.
So delicious. And okay, so next, the Kobe beef. It was insanely delicious.
The one from Australia.
The au jus to put on it, insanely delicious. The au jus was served on this teeny tiny little, oh my god, I mean what the word I'm looking for. It was a doily that had Victoria and Albert's logo on it, and it was phenomenal. And then the coolest part about this, I gotta say, is that once you pour the au jus over the meat and cut it, they give you this spoon that has a little divot cut out of it, and this spoon is basically the fancy way of slurping and licking all of the sauce off of your dish, because the divot actually helps you to go around the molding of the plate and get up all the rest of the juice.
So, for those of you who aren't into really specific culinary things of history,
like us,
there is pretty much a fork or a spoon or a knife or anything
for everything.
Every single type of food you could think of.
Everything.
The most commonly one,
the most commonly
random food, fork or knife, whatnot, that you will come across
is a fork. Sorry,
I was going to say is a fish fork, because it's like specifically designed for like flaking, and you usually get a fish fork and a fish knife, and the knife is just like, it's not sharp or anything, it's just designed to like flake it off and all that. But there are dishes, there are knives, there are spoons, there are forks for every, there are glasses for every possible thing you could think of. The Victorians did not double use many things at all. That is where fine dining began, was in the Victorian era, and I love weird dishes and knives and forks, so, if you have your grandmother's, like, silver service and you have this really weird fork and you want to tell us about it, you should, because it'll make
Or if you want to ask us about it,
yeah, or ask
let you
us
know
about
what it is.
Yeah, send us a picture, be like, hey, I found this in my grandmother's such and such, and we will do all that we can, like oyster plates. Oyster plates are amazing.
Okay, so now I want to say, before most people start this meal, we actually read a lot of reviews, and they say to take a half-hour walk to digest the food that you've already eaten.
Yes.
And it's right before this course or the course right before it. Amy and I did not need a break. So here's the deal. Most people will take a half-hour break, and the whole meal will last 5 hours, including the break.
Or will last less than that, including the break.
Correct. Amy and I's meal lasts probably 5.5 hours with no break.
Yeah.
No break. So I just want to throw that one out there.
Yeah.
So, the thing is, I thought I was going to feel insanely full after this meal, and I was just satisfied.
Yes, me too. If you feel that you need a break, if you've eaten faster than us or whatnot, or you're just like, hey, I need a break, just immediately tell your servers, so we would like to take a break after this next course, just walk around a little bit. People have talked about how they've just like kind of walked around the upstairs portion of the lobby, just kind of like stretch their legs. If that is what you feel you need to do it,
because they're very accommodating. They will wait for you if you need a little bit of extra time. The chef's table is all about you.
Yes, try to tell them when they serve you a course. That way, they haven't started on the next course. That way they haven't started on the next course, so nothing comes out.
So if you're
no
eating
food goes to
something and you're
waste.
feeling a little stuffed and having a hard time eating it, say, hey, we're going to need a break after this course.
Yes.
So they won't start preparing the next course until you're absolutely ready for it.
Like, I don't think they started preparing any of our courses until they took our plates, because
I
they,
know,
like,
because
realized
we were,
what
like,
pace we
ready.
were at and that we loved talking to them in between courses. But, you know, if you're going at a faster pace, you want to make sure that, you know, no food goes to waste.
I just
They don't
want to
have cook it
talk
twice.
about how I'm, like, tearing up a little bit
I
right now
know.
because this was absolutely probably one of the best meals we ever had in Disney. And talking about it and reliving it is just...
So, they cut the Japanese beef into 4 pieces.
Yes, we need to talk about this now.
Yes. I don't cry easily.
I cut my 4 pieces into, like, 4 pieces each.
Yes.
Because I wanted it to last even longer. So I gotta say, I ate all my... After having 1 piece of this,
Yes.
I ate all my Kobe beef first because I wanted this to be the last
Oh,
thing
I
that
did
ate.
the exact same thing. So I don't cry easily. Usually when I say, oh my gosh, I was crying, along with when Julie's crying, I wasn't actually crying, but I was
It was
getting
like
that.
tearing up.
I was
And I
kinda
don't think
getting that,
I don't
like-
think I actually cried until dessert, but I was like
Yes.
tearing up.
Yeah. I was legitimately tearing up and get, like, the last bite of this. I was overcome, and Julie's like, what's wrong? I was like, it's gone now. It's so good. And that is unusual for me. Like, I get emotional, but I usually don't actually cry.
Okay, so this beef, you take a bite into it, and it just gushes
Yes.
into your mouth. It like explodes with juice and deliciousness. And I think I remember saying something to Amy about how I wish I could just use this as chapstick
I know you did.
for the rest of the trip, because it was just like, first off, it was insanely delicious, but I just wanted to coat my mouth with this forever. Oh, it was so phenomenal.
So I know that this is an addition, like an upcharge option in the Queen Victoria room. I'm not sure if it is in the main dining room. Either way, if this is an option as an add-on to your meal while you're eating Victoria and Albert's, and whether you're on the chef's table or not, absolutely do it. You will not regret it.
I concur.
So,
And, like, this was the thing. We didn't spend the extra on the caviar because we knew we were spending the extra on this,
Yes.
and I don't regret it one single solid year bit.
No.
Also, if you do splurge and get this, do not put the gravy on
No.
this. Do not taint this meat at all.
the chef did come over and recommend that perhaps we don't put
Perhaps
the
we try it
sauce.
first,
Yes,
is
that
what
we
he
try
said.
it first, and we're like, oh no, we know that
We
this
were,
is
we were like,
bad.
yeah, we're never not putting, we're never putting
the
sauce on this.
Yeah, this needs no sauce. All the sauce will do is cover up the delicious. But yeah, I cried, and I don't cry easy.
Everything was amazing. This beef was magical. Okay, so let's talk about what went with our first dessert. Let's just talk about what went with our first dessert. We had a 30-year sherry. I'm gonna let that sink in for anybody who has had any sort of sherry
Ever.
So the sherry that we had was for our dessert course. And to start off our dessert course, we had cheese.
Cheese course. This was a very imaginative cheese course.
Oh, it was so magical.
It was amazing.
It was the first time that I've ever had honeycomb.
Really?
Yep. And I don't like honey, but I love honeycomb.
This is honeycomb is pure unadulterated honey.
Exactly.
Cone, so nothing is done to it.
Exactly. It's perfection.
Yeah. It's basically the freshest honey you're gonna get, if that makes any sense, because nothing's been done to it.
Absolutely. So we had a cheddar and a Gouda and some fancy cheeses. And again, I don't remember all of them because we were not planning on having a podcast at the point. But there was a blue cheese that was delicious with the honey. There was a truffle cheese. And the one thing that stood out for me was the Gruyere fondue
Yes.
that was served in this little glass ball.
a clear little like sphere with a chunk cut out so you could like put the cheese inside.
Dip it. Yeah, exactly. If you've ever seen like those chairs from like the 80s that were
70s.
or the 60s.
So imagine, if you will, a glass sphere, and like take and cut a quarter of the top of it off. So like now you have a hole in your sphere, and then put it on its side so that it's kind of like at a 45-degree angle with the surface it is sitting on. That is the description.
It was phenomenal. And it was served with a pâte de choux puff.
Yeah, so like a cream puff without the cream in it.
Exactly.
Which is what pâte de choux puffs are.
Yes. Ugh. It was just... it was so phenomenal. And there were some Marcona almonds.
The best Marcona almonds I've ever had.
So delicious.
A crostini. It was just... One thing
some
I liked about...
micro herbs.
Yes. One thing I liked about this...
I think I have a close-up of the Gouda.
Yes. One thing I like about this is, so obviously the fondue...
This was some sort of apricot deliciousness.
Yes. Obviously the fondue had the little pâte de choux puff because you needed something to dip into it, and they had a little crostini, but it was really about the cheese.
And the cheese stood alone.
Yes, the cheese stood alone.
Aside from this fondue that you had to dip in.
A lot of cheese plates correctly come with crostini or bread or whatnot, and as we've said, order extras if you want, because whatnot. This, you didn't need it. Obviously, the pâte de choux, for, as I said, the pâte de choux for the fondue, you did, because that was kind of the whole point. But you could just pick up these little pieces of cheese and put them in your mouth, and maybe add some of the accompaniments if you wanted to, but they were amazing. This was not like supermarket cheese. This was not even fancy supermarket cheese. This was just amazing, amazing cheese. Are you possibly going to come across these cheeses in your life again? Sure, possibly.
Yes, because Julie works in the cheese department at Wegmans and has tried all these cheeses and can appreciate these cheeses on a daily basis. But
so
it's not quite the same as chef's table cheese.
Yeah, exactly. It is amazing. Eat, as we did, every little bit of it. And we were starting to get full at this point. No lie, but we had to eat all the cheese. I do remember that. We're like, oh my gosh, we have dessert coming, and we're so full. But we're like, no, gotta eat the cheese. Gotta eat the cheese. Because we love cheese. Fancy cheese.
It was absolutely phenomenal. And we, at this point, could not finish everything. We tried each and every cheese.
Yes.
And they were kind enough to package it up for us so we could enjoy it the next day for breakfast.
Yes.
Which we did. Oh, there's a beautiful glass of sherry. Next, before our actual dessert courses, was our coffee. This coffee...
It's the best coffee you ever had, and you should totally order it if you get there.
It's so phenomenal. So the way this coffee works is they put the coffee grounds in the top. And then the way it heats is it percolates up to the top. All of the water percolates up to the top. And then it settles back down, and the coffee grounds stay in the top, but you get beautiful, percolated, magical coffee into the actual coffee pot.
If I remember correctly, the coffee device, and we'll definitely post a picture of this, is 24 karat gold plated, and it either costs $200 or $400 or $500. Basically, if you want this device, it's costing you several $100s.
Correct.
And it's amazing.
But we have pictures of it percolating, and it's just so phenomenal. I took a picture of the honeycomb by itself because I loved it so much. And before the dessert course, we actually got a chance to go over and speak to the pastry chef because as pastry chefs, it was awesome. So we went over to the pastry chef alcove and had a chance to talk to the pastry chefs, which was super awesome. And she told us about this New England-inspired dessert that they had that was seasonal. So it was only for basically the time that we were there
the fall.
Before the Christmas showed up, which would have literally been a week later.
Yes.
And it was sweet potato and cranberry mousse and cranberries and magicalness and some toasted pecans and this beautiful panna cotta mousse.
Gold leaf.
Yes, and she was telling us about it, and we thought, like, yeah, no, that's totally New
That's
England.
amazing, yeah.
And, like, that sounds delicious. And then it came over, and it was beautifully plated, and seriously, we'll show you pictures of this. It was absolutely phenomenal and delicious and amazing. But just looking at it, you were like, holy moly, this is an absolutely beautiful dessert. And this is the time that I actually cried.
Yes. I look over at Julie, and she's
Like,
crying.
there were actually tears streaming down my face. So, I took a bite of this, and I wasn't expecting to have this reaction at all, because she was like, oh, hey, you know, dessert, yada, 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 New England style, cranberries, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, whatever. We have cranberry everything.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
And I took a bite of this, and I looked over at Amy, and I was like, this tastes like home.
Yes.
And just started crying, because this dessert was, I don't know how to explain it. It literally tasted like New England. They
Yes,
captured it
did.
perfectly. And considering it was a chef from Florida,
Yes.
it was
It's like, how did you do
perfection.
that?
I was like, man.
I cried at the beef. Julie cried at the dessert. And like,
This was a very emotional meal for the both of us. And I don't think I would have ever wanted to share this with anyone
honestly, yeah.
but
no.
Amy.
Like, I pretty much, if the chef's table ever happens again, it's gonna be us doing the chef's table.
Yeah, I can't. I don't think, unless it's like you and me and your
Yes.
boyfriend and my boyfriend of the future.
Yes.
There's no way that I'm doing this without Amy,
I would love to take Michael to
regardless of whoever
Yes.
joins us.
I would love to take Michael to Victoria and Albert's, but realistically, if I did, it would just be the regular dining room, because that would still be way too much food for him. The Victoria room would be
And
way
even
too
the
much.
experience would just be like,
I know.
for him.
Exactly. I'd be like, it's okay. Just calm down. It'll be all right.
So I was just, yeah. So I was just so in love with this dessert that I was like, can we have a picture with a pastry chef? And she came over and we got a picture with her, which is super awesome and super phenomenal. And I was in my beautiful red dress, and Amy was in the dress that she had purchased a couple days before.
That
literally
day.
that morning
Yes. It's
after
inaugural wearing.
after our Amarette's dessert creation. Got some good legs going on there. Sorry, and then we took a picture with the meat man, whose name Steve, or is that what we're calling him?
We're calling him
Steve,
Steve.
but that's okay. And then I took even more pictures of our dessert, because I found from the other side it still looks absolutely beautiful. But wait,
There's more.
that wasn't our only dessert. Also, there's a picture of our coffee
halfway through.
making its way back down to deliciousness. And then there's the beautiful.
Yeah, we drank this coffee black because that's how this coffee should be. It was like
That's how we drink
amazing.
all of our coffees, let's be real.
Yes.
Unless it's a macchiato from Starbucks, because my
Admittedly,
caramel
some-
macchiatos are cream filled, because that's the point of a macchiato.
Yes. Admittedly, sometimes coffee from my coffee maker, just basic
It just
Folgers.
like needs a little extra.
Yeah, I'll put Oreo International Delight or whatever it is. Julie's playing fussy with me.
I'm making her really uncomfortable and licking my lips at the same
Yeah, it was really awkward. Oreo International Delight or whatever it's called, and it's delicious and really dangerous, and I just finished the bottle, so I'm going to let Michael buy another bottle, because otherwise I'm just going to keep drinking it instead of drinking it black.
Yep. So the next picture I have is from Allison, and she is showing us the flake of pastry that she is wrapping around the tube for the delicious farro salad
Roulade thing.
that was absolutely delicious. So that was awesome.
We got her in trouble a little bit.
No. I don't remember what it was. I don't know that we got her in trouble, but she in a kitchen, things are stressful, and the chef, before our dessert came out, was lecturing her about something that happened that literally had nothing to do with us, but
Probably not, no.
she did something, and it wasn't necessarily wrong, it was just something that he didn't ask her to do, and she did it a different way, which in a kitchen of such a high caliber,
That's going to happen.
yeah. So I felt really bad. So afterwards I was like, Allison. Oh no, I started from the beginning. It's so funny to be seeing you after so long, girl. And the way you look, I understand that you are not impressed. But I heard you let your little friend of mine take off your party dress.
Oh my.
Allison, I know this world is killing you, Allison. My aim is true. So I sang to her and made her smile after that. So that was really awesome because being from a culinary background, we
know what was going
understand.
on.
We understand what's happening. So we're just trying to make her feel better. So the second dessert,
Eyelashes.
I don't remember what it's called, but
Look at them.
it was phenomenal. And there was let me look
We
at
have the menu.
Hold on.
We have pictures of it and the actual menu. We just don't have the actual menus with us.
Cranberry sweet potato gâteau was Ted.
Gâteau is French for cake.
Was the cranberry delicious dessert that made Julie cry. And the Peruvian chocolate crunch is what we're talking about right now. And it's really cool because they called it eyelash chocolate.
They did, and it looks like eyelashes.
It was a quenelle of Peruvian chocolate mousse served on a bed of Peruvian dark chocolate. And then there was dark chocolate eyelashes, which was literally just Peruvian dark chocolate that was like drizzled over
a curved half tube.
Exactly. And literally looks like eyelashes. And then there was another quenelle of some sort of tropical fruit puree with gold leaf on it. And then obviously some beautiful chocolate swirly, beautiful, magical presentation beautifulness. This was also insanely delicious. And I would say that this was my favorite dessert if the other one didn't make me cry.
Yes. So if
the other one tasted like home. If we weren't from New England, this would have been my favorite dessert.
Yes.
It was so phenomenal. So the Peruvian chocolate mousse was to die for. But then with that mousse combined with it, it was just like next level and so delicious and so wonderful and so incredible. It was just so delicious.
And the eyelashes it was just nice to see some like fun chocolate work.
Exactly. It literally was like the easiest chocolate work ever for Amy and I to say because we're pastry chefs. So maybe a little more difficult for anybody else, but it was just beautiful.
Yeah, we really appreciate sugar work, chocolate work, anything like that because we know even if it's like a simple thing.
Because if you don't temper chocolate well.
Yeah. It's even when it's simple, it is time consuming and you have to, whoever is making the menu has to make the decision. Okay, we're going to take this extra time to make these, even though they're edible, but what is realistically decorations just for it. Now, back to the box. Remember that wooden box that said Victoria and Albert's and was inlaid with veneers?
Ugh, it was full of chocolate.
It was full of handmade chocolate.
And we got to, so they opened this beautiful chocolate display and they're like, hey, so which one do you want? And we were like, can we have all of them? And so they made us up each a box of all these chocolates.
Yes.
Hold on one second.
You never ate them.
I ate my orange rind.
So Julie's never eaten any of them, and there's like chocolate.
I still have. I know.
There's
chocolate bloom.
There's chocolate bloom on the oils inside the box.
So I still have my box of these chocolates because I just couldn't bring myself to eat them. So the first one was this marzipan flower star.
Still there. It's stuck to another one.
Yeah, that's not edible at this point.
Yeah, no, it's over a year old.
It's marzipan. The next was a praline chocolate pyramid.
Ish. I say ish because it's not exactly pyramid shaped. It's kind of like a triangular tunnel section. Yeah, don't eat your chocolate a year later. Why are you eating them? I'm like, at this point.
Because I'm curious. I wonder what it tastes like. I'm not going to eat anyone after that.
Oh, okay. We'll just put them back in there.
No, if we were over there. I'm curious.
Now, if you're going to eat another one, it should be that one. See what's going on.
Right.
Got chocolate mouth.
So the next one is, hold on. So the praline pyramid. The next one is a raspberry white chocolate bomb, of course, of sorts. Yum. The next one is banana. This one is really cool because it's like yellow and black chocolate and super delicious. How was this one, Amy?
It was amazing. I ate every single one of them, not all at once, and not until I got home, but they were delicious. I saved the cherry brandy for last because I weirdly love cherry cordials, dark chocolate cherry
I'm
cordials.
sorry. I just want to say that's not weird because cherry cordials are my favorite thing ever in life.
That is why you're my Disney wife.
Exactly.
And we have a food podcast. I did not buy a box of, the regular, like the cherry cordials you can buy like anywhere. I did not buy a box of them at Christmas Tree Shop the other day because I was like, you know what? I don't need those right now.
You should have.
Yeah, I'm going to go back.
Shame on you.
Well, I might be going somewhere with my mom tomorrow, so I'll be like, Mom, let's go to Christmas Tree Shop and buy some cherry cordials.
So the
Even
next
though you can't eat
thing
chocolate.
was the orange rind,
My
which
mom
is
can't eat
literally a candied orange rind dipped in chocolate.
Which is amazing.
It was the best chocolate dipped orange rind I've ever had in my entire life.
Mine too. And I've had a few, because strangely they come up regularly.
The next is the cherry brandy, which is literally a cordial cherry, which Amy is talking about. And it looks like mine has melted into this and it's not a cherry cordial anymore.
It was delicious. It was the best cherry cordial I have ever had.
And then the next is a rum caramel.
The best rum-flavored caramel I've ever had.
Are you sensing a pattern?
So you want a cherry cordial to... So let's talk about how cherry cordials are made.
Oh my gosh.
So
I gotta say, I was super fascinated by cherry cordials for my entire life until I went to culinary school, and then I was like, whoa, this is so easy to make.
So if you are a fan of cherry cordials, specifically the ones that you can get easily, every so often you'll come across and there'll be some kind of like pinkish whitish gunk, we'll say, inside your
It's
cherry
not
cordial.
gunk. That's an awful description.
Well, no, but like stuff. Pinkish whitish stuff inside your cherry cordial. We're about to explain why that's the case. Hold on, Julie's taking a bite.
More sure. Cherry pit.
There's a cherry pit in that one.
But the rest of it is super delicious.
Yeah. So, how you make
Oh, it's actually amazing.
Yes, I am so happy. High five.
Which means that it was probably actually amazing had I eaten it in a reasonable amount of time. You talk. I'm going to go clean my hands.
Yes. So, how a cherry
I'm
cordial...
literally going to throw the rest of this away, so I'm not tempted to eat anything else.
You should throw the rest of those bits away, too.
Shut up.
So, how a cherry cordial is. So, first you start with usually a maraschino cherry, a high-quality maraschino cherry.
With a stem.
With a stem. It can be made without a stem, but it's easier,
It's
and traditionally it should be made with a stem. And then you take and you dip that into fondant. Now,
It's not like cake fondant that you cover a cake with.
yeah. Fondant is basically a thin icing of sorts. And again, it is technically, that's how they call it fondant, but it is not the fondant that you put on the outside of a cake, that is pasty and whatnot. So you dip it into that first, and then you'd usually put it and let it kind of solidify as it, harden. Like, not like solid, but, become a solid mass.
It basically gets a sheen around it that is dry.
Yes. Similar to like royal icing when you first do it before
Correct.
it fully hardens. And this isn't going to harden like royal icing, so don't worry. You then
Exactly.
take-
So if you've ever had an eclair, the
Yes.
topping that is that chocolate, it is a chocolate fondant.
Yeah, it's fondant
Which is
based.
not the same as like a cake fondant, but it is the way you cook the sugar
Yes,
that makes
is
it into
what-
fondant. And it's actually crazy. You cook it to like a certain stage, and then you pour it into a sheet pan so it cools a little bit. And then once it comes down to temperature, you actually beat it in a mixer
That's how you get
to get it to that
yeah.
white stage.
white stage. After it's been covered in the fondant and it has, gotten that dried outside, basically, you then take it and dip it in what should be dark chocolate, but some people do milk chocolate. It's okay if you like milk chocolate, but it should be dark chocolate.
It should absolutely be dark chocolate,
Yeah.
you crazy people.
Yes, and then you want to make
So-
sure it's fully encapsulated. The fondant
Yes, so
needs
it's
to be
completely
fully
sealed.
sealed off. And then you let it set for several weeks, because what's going to happen is that
At least a week.
At least a week, but you want to let it sit for a while, because what's going to happen is that fondant
Reacts
is gonna
to
react.
the juices in the cherry.
yes, and it's going to go from that semi-solid state to that
To
beautiful
liquid.
liquidness.
And it mixes with the juices of the cherries, so you get that beautiful. And then this cherry dessert was probably cherries soaked in brandy.
Yes, I remember that. They were soaked in brandy because they
That
had
gave
a
it
jar
that
of it.
extra, exactly, that gave it that extra layer because the cherries are soaked in brandy and then the fondant mixed with all the juices, and then it was delicious brandy cherries.
So if you bite into a commercially available cherry cordial and it has the pinkish whitest stuff,
It's just because it hasn't sat long.
Yeah, it hasn't sat long. So if you have a whole box, maybe like put the box aside for another week before you eat the rest.
Yep. The next was the rum caramel.
As I said, best rum caramel I've ever had.
So delicious. And then the last one was the mimosa, which was an orange dessert.
Yes.
Which is, what a mimosa is made out of.
So if I could eat these all the time, I would absolutely eat these all the time. If I had to pick one, it would be the cherry brandy cordial.
Mine would be the orange rind. That orange rind was the best orange rind I've ever had in my entire life. It was so freaking delicious. It really was,
but it also was equally the best cherry cordial I've ever had.
Yeah, no, that was super delicious as well. But I'm just saying, orange rind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
because I could make brandy cherries.
Yes.
The orange rind, it takes a little more effort.
Yeah, Michael's mother makes candied orange rinds, not covered in chocolate, and we've discussed it before just because we were talking about it. I was like, and we were discussing how to properly candy orange rinds. Basically, is you boil it in the sugar syrup, and then you take it out and let it dry, and then you boil it in the sugar syrup, and you just keep kind of going back and forth.
We did that in culinary school.
Like, until...
I think we half dipped them in culinary school.
Yeah, we did half dip them because that's very common. So, as we are moving on.
To end our evening, we both got a rose. And it's really cool because it's protected in this little plastic case, so it's good for travel, and I still have mine. Yes. Okay, so in the past, before this, Amy and I have eaten at Disney resorts and regretted how much we ordered and how much we spent.
Let's not talk about how much we spent.
No, I'm not. This was one of those. Yeah, this was one of those meals where they gave us the check
in a little box.
It was actually a beautiful little box that we got it in, and we took a picture of it. Don't you worry. And we added the tip, and we're just like, please take our money.
Yes.
Because the experience was just that incredible. And of course, going into it, we knew how much we were going to be spending. But at the same time, you never realize exactly how much you're going to be spending. And it was easily the best money I've ever spent at Disney.
Yes, yes.
What was really cool is at the end, all of the chefs that were part of the dinner came out, and we were able to take a picture with all of them. And I just want to say that we look phenomenal in these pictures. But we got a picture with Allison.
Yes.
Allison!
Yeah, we specifically wanted one with just Allison, and obviously just the chef.
And just Chef Matt. And then we also got a picture with us and the waitstaff. It was just absolutely phenomenal. And then afterwards, it was really awesome. After we were super stuffed with food, the waitress that walked us out actually took pictures of us in front of a lot of the floral fixtures and in front of the entrance. And there's my nephew. And it was just really, it was very much catered to us.
Let's not post this picture.
No, I'm going to post this one if I post any of them.
Okay, good, yes. The Grand Floridian, it's very Victorian. Occasionally while you're walking around, or at least while I'm walking around, I'll notice like a piece of art or a piece of like a vase, a vase, a sculpture or whatnot, and I look at it and I'm like, that doesn't look Victorian. That looks like 90s version of the Victorian. Absolutely not the feeling inside Victorian Albert's.
Truth.
Victorian Albert's was absolutely gorgeous. The floral arrangements that you saw around were perfect. Victorian floral arrangements. Why do I know what Victorian floral arrangements look like? I don't know, but I do. And everything is just fantastic. There's a harpist. It's just beautiful. We were not the last ones out of the restaurant.
We tried real hard. Like, literally, we're like, okay, we're probably probably no one left. There was a couple of couples, but I like to think they showed up a little late or something. But So this restaurant used to have 2 seatings
Yes.
for dinner, and then they realized that they were rushing the first half of the people out. So this restaurant is literally a 1-seating restaurant. So your
Yes.
reservation is at 5, whether you're at the chef's table or you're in any other part of the dining room, and that is the only seating of the evening, which is why it's so exclusive to get a seating here.
As we mentioned, it's very difficult to get the chef's table because there's one. Next down the line would be the Victoria room, and then would be the main dining room. Obviously, it's not a day of reservation sort of situation, but if you have missed your 180 days, it is still very possible that you will be able to get either a Queen Victoria room, depending on how close to the 180 days you are or not, or a main dining room. You can get a main dining room for a good chunk of that previous 180 days, not because it's like not popular, just because there are more of them.
So we had to book a special reservation for our dining, while the normal dining room and the Queen Victoria's tables you can just get with 180 plus 10.
Yes, you can do Victoria room and the main dining room via the Disney app, via online. To get the chef's table, you have to call right away and try really hard. Cross
Truth.
your fingers, cross your toes,
And
cross your
expect
eyes.
to wait at least 3 years, because that's what we
Yes.
had to wait.
Yes.
It's worth every penny. It's worth the wait. I swear to God, it is worth the wait.
It is worth everything.
Ugh, it was so phenomenal.
No food experience will ever be as amazing.
I don't think so.
I don't want to say it ruined food for us, but like the next day we woke up and we literally said to each other, "Are we ever gonna be able to enjoy food in Disney again?" And yes, clearly we have.
And then I don't even remember what we ate the next. Actually, I could probably get pictures to see what we ate the next day, because
we had Be Our Guest for breakfast, because I realized I went the next day after ended our pictures, and then we had Ackerhaus. We had
Acker's house was so good.
Yes.
So the thing is, with that, it was such a different culinary experience
Yes.
that
Toffee pudding.
It was okay.
Had we gone to one of the other fine dining establishments in Disney World the day after Victoria and Albert's, we would have been like, what is wrong? This is not okay. But we went to, normal restaurant situations and all that, and it was amazing, as it usually is.
Because you can't really screw up the gray stuff.
Yes.
Which was a delicious choice afterwards. And then, what was our next meal after that? Hold on.
Ackerhaus.
Was it? And then after that, I remember making us miss the monorail, because I had to get a picture of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party logo with the orange monorail.
Yes.
And Amy was very understanding of that.
I was.
Like, look at how perfect that picture is.
That was perfect. And you showed
And Amy understands, because she loves the monorail, so any good picture of the monorail is perfect. Monorail.
Oh, the monorail. I'm always sad on a trip if I don't get to ride the monorail. We got to ride
We
the
rode
monorail
the monorail a
several
lot this
times
trip.
this last time. Like more.
It was awesome.
More than average this trip. And we got to ride boats. So it was just a very good trip.
It was a really good trip.
Yes.
It was. Oh, and Christmas. But yeah, I remember sitting at dinner at Hacker's house and being like, oh, thank goodness this is still delicious.
Yes.
Because we were so concerned that after the
so
chef's table
worried.
that we weren't going to be able to enjoy any Disney after that.
Yes.
Clearly, we loved the chef's table at Victoria and Albert's. Now, even if you can't get the chef's table at Victoria and Albert's,
Yes.
eat there.
So we had a fun little chat with the chef. I don't know if it was I think it was after the meal, and we were discussing coming back. Because obviously, if you go to the chef's table, the likelihood is you're going to come back. And
not necessarily do the chef's table, but definitely
Yes.
come back to the restaurant.
He honestly recommended, he said, well, unless you're going to do the chef's table again, we understand the chef's table is usually a once-in-a-lifetime experience. He recommended not the Victoria room, but the regular dining room. The reason is the menu in the Victoria room is essentially the chef's table menu. It's the same number of courses, but you're not getting that same attention, obviously, that you are in the chef's table. You're not getting that extra little whatnot. So the main dining room menu being fewer courses is, more of a revisit unless you're doing the
Yes,
actual
because
chef's
in the
table.
main dining room you can get 7 courses or you can get the 10 courses. So
Yes.
depending on what you want to do in the main dining room, you can
Yeah.
go for a few less courses.
Yes.
It's still going to be insanely amazing service, but it's not going to be as
The
insanely
experience.
specific
Yes.
as the chef's table, because the chef's table we literally had two waitresses
Just for
that
us.
were just for us and nobody else in the entire restaurant. Well,
Yes.
with the rest of the dining room, you're sharing a waiter or waitress with the rest of the dining room.
Yes.
But yes, so we loved it. It was amazing. If you can get the chef's table, do it. If you can't, still eat at Victoria and Albert's, because the
Yes.
experience is still going to be amazing. The food
It
is still
is.
going to be amazing. It's just a phenomenal experience all around.
Now, if you are like, we have to get the chef's table, like Julie and I, we had to get the chef's table, so we never ate at Victoria and Albert's until we got the chef's table. That's okay if you're going to keep trying, but if you're sort of like, hey, we want the chef's table, oh, we couldn't get it, let's do Victoria and Albert's anyways, that's perfectly fine too. It's just an amazing experience. I recommend it so much. I have not seen any real negative reviews. They do, this is kind of a side note off topic, or on topic / off topic. If you are going to propose at the chef's table, they recommend that you talk to them first, because they will set something up with one of the dessert courses, because say you do it early on, you're just going to be so excited about the whole situation and you're going to ignore the rest of the food and come, let's be honest, the chef's table is all about the food. So if you're proposing in your chef's table, talk to them and they'll work something out so that that it happens when you want it to happen at the, towards the end, and it's a beautiful evening.
Do it.
What am I doing?
Eat there.
Eat there.
It's
Do it.
amazing. All right, so we do not have a food memory for this week.
But-
If you would like to share a Disney food memory with us, please do. We really want to hear all of your food memories, because we love talking about our food memories, but we really want to hear about yours too, and we want to be able to share yours as well. So send your favorite Disney food memory to onelittlespice@gmail.com, or send us a direct message to any of our social media, and we will be sure to share it on one of our future podcasts. Please share.
No, like really, we just spoke for, well, we're going to obviously
2.5
do some
hours, pretty
editing.
much.
But yeah, like 2.5 hours, and we're going to edit this down to slightly shorter than that. But most of this is content. We'd like to hear about you. Hear what you think about Disney food. Your memories.
So we are on Patreon. On Patreon is where you can get some other exclusive content for our podcast. We have the Magical Snack Corner there, which is our extra episode that comes out bi-weekly, and a button pack, and our One Little Spice blend, which is awesome. So please head over to www.patreon.com/onelittlespice and sign up for some of those awesome exclusives. By helping us on Patreon, we are able to bring you even more Disney food content even more often, so that'll help us to open up our website and bring you daily content, as well as get to the park more often and share more Disney food experiences with you. We are on TeePublic, which is where you can get all of our merchandise. If you go onto teepublic.com, you can search One Little Spice, and all of our stuff is there. And you can also get some really awesome merchandise, which is t-shirts and mugs and baby onesies and sweatshirts and some really awesome stuff there. So make sure you check that out. You can also click on the link in our description to head to TeePublic. And then we are, last but not least, on YouTube. We are the Taste Lab on YouTube, so make sure that you subscribe to that so you get our latest videos there. We have our Le Cellier's cheddar cheese soup, as well as the 7-vegetable terrine from Akershus. We are going to be posting the Cobb salad from Hollywood Brown Derby, as well as the Tonga toast from Kona Cafe soon. So please make sure you subscribe so you're the first one to know about those. And thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you guys. Happy New Year. And just remember, every recipe starts with one little spice.
Stop calling us!
That's probably my sister.
There's no mail today, it failed, and now I cannot wag my tail, but when it comes, I'm gonna wail. Mail.
Welcome to episode 33. Larry Bird, y'all. It's also not what I'm naming this episode.
I was gonna, like,